What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV, back here for yet another Tottenham update. We're going to go into the last 24 hours of Tottenham news. But first up, we're actually going to be talking about VAR and the Premier League, as David Ornstein has literally just reported that the Premier League clubs are to vote on a proposal to scrap VAR for next season. Resolution formally submitted by Wolves to abolish the system and will be on the agenda of the June the 6th AGM of the Premier League. Any rule change needs a 2/3 majority, which means 14 out of 20 members need to vote in favour of it to pass the ruling, which is really interesting. We've seen a lot of ups and downs with VAR this season, a lot of managers complaining about it. Where are you at with it?
I've seen Sweden scrap it as well, so it's not completely unprecedented at the moment with teams voting to scrap it. I don't think the Premier League clubs will vote to scrap it completely. I'd be very surprised if 14 of the 20 clubs do vote, because I do think in general VAR does get most decisions right, so I think Premier League clubs will want to persist with it. But I think the fact that it's being brought to the table as something that we should scrap by Wolves, I think is an indication that there is a lot of discontent. There is a lot of people not happy with how the system works at the moment. And I think fans should be at the forefront when it comes to changing this system, because right now it's built for trying to get decisions correct, but it's not built for the fan experience in the crowd, and it really, really does hurt it. It means you can't properly celebrate goals. You've got long wait times for minuscule decisions and not clear and obvious errors, in my opinion, and drawing lines for offside, which hopefully will be scrapped next season when semi-automated offsides come in. For me, do I want to see the whole system scrapped? I don't think I want it scrapped, but I definitely want it not in its current form. It can't remain how it is at the moment because it's not fit for purpose. At the moment, they're intervening when they shouldn't be a lot of the time for errors which are just not clear and obvious. But I guess the question will always be, where do you draw the line for clear and obvious, and when is it not clear and obvious? And that's a difficult decision to make, I guess. And that's always been the problem as to where you draw the line for intervention. And that's why we're seeing such inconsistencies, I guess. But I think you can't get rid of it completely now that the cat's out of the box, but I think it can't remain in its current form, and it has to be adjusted, because I see it being used in Champions League and international tournaments, and it's a lot more efficient, it's a lot quicker. They don't get everything right, but it's a lot quicker and a lot faster and a lot better for fans, and that's the kind of a bar we need to get to.
Yeah, I mean, I get really frustrated with VAR throughout, particularly this season, and the main thing is when you're at the stadium and it's not just things are taking too long, but you just have no idea what's going on as a fan in that stadium, and that's very frustrating. I think the people implementing it need to change massively. I don't think the people implementing it are the right people. I know they're all ex-refs and stuff like that, but I don't know, they just seem to get way too much wrong than they should do when they're literally watching the things on replay 20,000 times, trying to find the most minuscule thing to rule out something for. And they still get it wrong. So I think the people implementing it need to change. And I think you're completely right when you say, a lot of the particular rulings that go with VAR need to change as well. So I'm on the same page as you. I would like to see it stay, but it just does need heavy adjustments if it is going to stay. And you're completely right as well in what you're saying, that when you look at it in other countries, in international tournaments, it seems a lot better. I remember watching the World Cup in Qatar, and that first week or the first 2 weeks in Qatar where the group stages was at, all the Premier League fans were, wow, VAR can actually be implemented in such a good way. And it's just not like that in the Premier League. So they need to probably take some knowledge from these kind of leagues and the international tournaments and maybe the best refs in the world, and maybe start drafting in better refs to run the VAR in the backroom, because the guys just seem clueless at the moment. And you hear some of the audios that come out, and it's just nothing short of embarrassing sometimes.
Yeah, especially that Spurs one. Obviously, that was a real embarrassment for VAR. And for me, if it's a choice, if it's a choice between keeping it as it is or scrapping it, I'll probably scrap it. But if they're gonna improve it, evolve it, make sure it runs smoother, quicker, and more suited for the fan experience, I'm willing to. I'm happy for it to remain. I just don't like it. I don't like VAR in its current format.
It'll be interesting to see what Spurs vote on this, because Ange has been he's heavily criticised VAR in the past. We know he doesn't like VAR. He's already gone to say he's moving to Sweden because they don't have VAR. Yeah. So maybe that's the way to keep him here if they scrap VAR.
I'm sure he'll be definitely pushing Daniel, maybe as part of the pressure You don't have to spend so much if you can vote for scrapping VAR.
Yeah, but I'd be interesting to know your opinions in the comment section below. Do you want to see VAR stay in the Premier League for next season? Let me know your opinions. Now, let's talk about Ange Postecoglou, because we saw a very frustrated figure with Ange yesterday in the press conference on the side of the pitch in an altercation with a fan, which caused a lot of debate in the Spurs fan base. Is he still happy here? What is going on when he's talking about the fragile fractions in Spurs? And Matt Law has just done an article on it, and he says Tottenham are confident that Ange Postecoglou is not unhappy at the club, and that his post-Man City rant was not sparked by deep-seated issues. Ange's rant provoked some fears amongst supporters that he was hinting at a wider discontent, and that cracks could already start to be appearing between himself and Spurs. However, that has been dismissed by Telegraph Sport, by Tottenham sources, and those who know Postecoglou, who stressed that his frustration at the build-up of the match and the reaction of some fans whose cheers City goals just simply bowled over on the day. And that's kind of like what we thought at the in our post-match review. Yeah,
that is what it seems, albeit he did say the last 48 hours have proven how fragile our mentality is, both inside and outside the club. And it was more when he said inside the club, which got me alarmed as to what he was kind of hinting at. Obviously, outside the club, we all know he's hinting at the fans and how they've reacted and stuff like that. And obviously, some fans, including us, wanting Spurs to lose essentially. But I do think when he says inside the club, that was quite interesting. So I'm not sure what he means by that. I'm sure he's not going to obviously quit over this debacle, and I think it will be water under a bridge, like we suggested. And it does seem as though there was following the update, it says Tottenham are very much preparing to back Postecoglou this summer, despite missing out on Champions League. So I think the way forward, Tottenham are in a good way in terms of progress, where Postecoglou wants us, and Ange has been very consistent about this club needing change and a change of mentality, and that's all part of it. And this is all obviously part of the process in changing the way we think. It was definitely worrying to hear him speak in that manner in the press conference, and it did obviously give you flashbacks to Conte, and obviously he quit not long after that interview. So I'm not surprised there are some fans maybe having PTSD over that moment. But I think it was different. I do think it was a flashpoint in time. It was a heightened emotions where I think it was a heat of the moment kind of thing, and I think there'll be water under the bridge sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of people and haters brought out a clip there when they've mixed up the Conte, the Jose, and the Ange, all those press conferences when they were talking about those similar situations. But I do feel like this Ange one is completely different to the Conte and the Mourinho ones, where Conte and Mourinho were clearly going at the hierarchy about kind of preparing a squad, bringing in different kind of players, and I think Ange's was completely directed at something completely different to that. So I don't think all three should be likened to each other. I can get that Mourinho and Conte's one are likened to each other, but I think Postecoglou's one was something completely separate.
I think so as well. The only thing is he said inside the club, so it's just what he means by that essentially is the only sticking point, because that would insinuate either players or staff or directors or whatever, chairman. Mm-hmm. I don't know who he means by that, but he said inside the club and outside. So I do wonder what he's referring to.
Maybe he was talking about Sonny.
Maybe.
I'm joking. Let's go on to transfer rumours now, and we're going to talk about ex-Man United starlet Angel Gomes. Graham Bailey of 90 Min says that Tottenham, Villa and West Ham are all watching Gomes closely, along with his former side Manchester United. The 23-year-old has impressed at Lille this season, been deployed in a few different midfield roles this season for Lille, in the deep line playmaker role, attacking midfielder, a bit further forward as well. And he's kind of having a bit of a breakout season for Lille in the French league this year. So English player as well, which fits that quota. Would you be interested in bringing him in?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think he's progressed quite nicely since he's left Man United, and he's become obviously a key figure for Lille. But I don't know if where he fits in with us. He's actually quite a versatile player. He's played in on the wings. He's played in the centre mid as well. I don't know if he seems to be doing all right. I don't know if he's one which is going to significantly improve us. I think he's obviously quite dynamic on the ball. He's quite a good dribbler. He's quite quick as well. He's clearly got good close control. Whether he's an effective player for the Premier League, I think remains to be seen. I think he has become a good player since leaving United, but whether he's a player who can take it to the next level at Spurs, I don't know. I think he's a good player, though. I just don't know if he's a massive improvement on what we've already got.
In terms of his contract, he's got a year left in his contract, 22 million market value on transfer market. In 30 games this year in the French league, he's got 8 assists, no goals. Played in the Conference League, 2 goals and 1 assist in the Conference League as well, which is better than he's ever had in any stage of his career. At 23 years of age, he could still be one that Ange could mould in maybe his image.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, he's obviously not. He's still fairly young and is similar age to the group as well, so I think he would fit in. On that sense, I mean, clearly, look, he's a cheap option, as you say, homegrown. So maybe that's why we're looking at him. As I say, I don't know if he's a massive improvement or we are not convinced, but might be.
Next up, we're going to talk about Takefusa Kubo. Fichajes out in Spain say that Tottenham have made a pre-summer £43 million proposal for Kubo from Sociedad. They are leading the bid at this moment in time. Sociedad, for their part, are finding this tempting and could choose to entertain this approach despite it being below his release clause of £52 million. He's a really interesting player, Kubo. I think he does have attributes that can really thrive in this system. He's a player that Zinedine Zidane once really spoke really highly of. He's a player that came through La Masia in Barcelona. He's had time at Real Madrid as well. Now he's at Sociedad, where he's really started to break out, and Japanese international on top of that. He can play right wing, he can play number 10. If really pushed, he can play on the left wing as well. So a very versatile attacking player that I think would do really well here if his physicality can really match the Premier League.
That's the only thing, because he's quite short. He's 5'6". We've had a short, basically non-physical winger try to make in the Premier League, who obviously did well at Spain and Brian Hill, and it hasn't worked out for him. So I do think Kubo's a different level. I think he has shown a lot more in the Spanish league than Brian Hill has. So I don't think I'm sitting here saying that he's going to be another Brian Hill, but there is definitely a question mark there whether when it comes to the hustle and bustle of the Premier League, you're coming up against very physical defenders, you don't have much time on the ball, you're getting pressed a lot more. Is he going to be up to that? Whereas in La Liga, he's probably going to get a bit more space to dribble at players, a bit more time. So I think he's great and a good player. He's 22 years of age, and I think he's a very good winger. I feel like his lack of physicality is a problem, though. I really do, and I don't know if he has like electric pace to deal with it. I think he's fast, but is he like as fast as Brennan Johnson? Obviously, Brennan Johnson has like a wide frame as well, so physically he can compete with these kind of defenders. I got a feeling Kubo might be eaten alive in this league. That's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried about.
Whenever I watch him play, though, like I'm so impressed by, he's got such trickery about him. He can beat a man with ease, and he's got quality at the end of it. I mean, what's his stats saying this season? 7 goals, 3 assists. His market value on Transfermarkt is actually £60 million.
He's a good player.
60 million euros.
He is a good player. Don't get me wrong. I'm trying to think of like wingers though, his kind of size, who have previously done well in the Premier League.
He actually holds a record for the youngest ever player to score in the J-League, 15 years of age. That's mad.
Wow, that is pretty mad. Obviously, you've got people like Modric, but Modric is like 1 in a million, and also like physically, he's very strong, and that's why he played centre mid. You got people like Hazard, who wasn't the tallest, but I don't know if he's Hazard level. You know what I mean? So I've been impressed when I've seen him, but I've also when I have seen him, I also do like kind of get the feeling he wouldn't do that well here.
But you also, Hazard wasn't Hazard level before he came into the Premier League. And
he was.
Well, he was playing for Lille, right? And he was doing well in the French League. Yeah, he was doing well. But there were still question marks about him coming to the Premier League, is what I'm trying to say.
I guess. I think he was highly sought after. A number of clubs.
So is Kubo, though.
Yeah, I know. But is he going to join like the top teams after him? I don't know. I think he's a good player. I think he's a good player, really good at dribbling.
He's actually quite an aggressive player as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. So
really
like
aggressive
Brian Hill
player.
is an aggressive player.
That's also true.
So I
think it's unfair to put him in the Brian Hill camp, but I definitely know what you're saying, because he is a small player. He is a small player, and that is a concern. But I think he would definitely be one that would excite me.
But I don't like using that as a criticism as well. I know I am using it, but I don't like it because just because you're small doesn't mean, look at Messi. He's also small. Doesn't mean he's not. Messi obviously could play in the Premier League. He's that good, but But when you're that kind of size as Kubo, you need other attributes to be at a certain level to make up for it. And I think they're at a good level, but are they at that level to be a massive success in the Premier League? I'm just not certain of it.
Aaron Lennon was small.
He was small, and he did all right.
Yeah. In terms of his stats, what he's showing this year from FBref, he's in the 92nd percentile for progressive carries, 80% percentile for successful take-ons, 73% percentile for touches in the attacking penalty area, 76% percentile for progressive passes received, 82nd percentile for shot creating actions, 82nd for expected assists, expected goals. I mean, these stats look great, don't they?
He's a good player, as I say. I don't think I'm not saying he's a bad player. I just would rather go for someone who's a bit more physical, who's not going to be shoved off the ball as easily, which I feel like Kubo might be. I might be wrong, though. I'm happy to be proved wrong.
Bring him in, is what I say. But anyway, let's move on and talk about a centre-back that we've been linked with for the last few months, called Alessandro Buongiorno. Calcio Mercato say that Tottenham have now called their interest in the Torino defender Buongiorno, and let's hope this potentially means something about Riccardo Calafiori.
That'd be great. That's obviously my first thought when I heard that news. Obviously, Buongiorno is a player we've been talking about him, and I do think he's a good player. I think Calafiori is definitely better value for money, and I do think he's more suited to what we want. So maybe that's in view of that, or maybe he's just too expensive. Either way, but I'm not losing any sleep over losing him.
Yeah, I agree. And last but not least, Spurs have agreed a deal to sign striker sensation George Feeney. Feeney is the son of former Northern Ireland international Warren Feeney. Will make the move to North London from Glentoran in Northern Ireland, and he'll join the academy on a 2-year scholarship. Spurs carrying on tapping up the greatest talent around, young talent around Europe.
Yeah, and I think there was reports about it a few months ago, so clearly we've been convinced, and we're going to get him through the door. Improves our roster of young players, which is ever growing at the moment. Maybe it's a view of Mikey Moore getting a promotion, so he takes his place in the under-18s potentially. I remember his dad, Warren Feeney. He was a decent player, played for Preston, I remember. Was a decent striker. I'm hoping George can be better than him, but yeah.
Yeah, we should hope so. We should hope so. But that is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below your thoughts regarding all the news stories we brought to you today. Do you feel Ange Postecoglou is still happy at Tottenham? And will you scrap VAR if you had the choice? Like, subscribe and comment. And as always, come on you Spurs.